He laughed while he boarded first class. I laughed when I deleted his name from everything. He was laughing when he boarded the plane. That smug, half-smile he wore when he wanted to remind the world how far he'd come. How far above it all he was. Champagne in one hand. Designer shades. Boarding pass in the other. Group 1. First class. Of course. His friend filmed him for Instagram. Let's go, boys. First class only, if you know, you know. They toasted. Tagging locations. Slapping on hashtags like #earned it and #noWivesAllowed. I watched it from the kitchen. Alone. Same kitchen I renovated. Same house I decorated. Same mortgage I contributed to, even when he said I didn't really need to worry about the finances. The night before he left, I'd asked very calmly if I was invited. He'd chuckled. Not laughed. Chuckled. Like the idea was adorable. Babe, this trip is for successful people. You wouldn't enjoy it. It's networking luxury. A different vibe. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, but because I suddenly realized how long I'd been choking them down. He kissed the top of my head, called me sweetheart, and said he'd bring me something back from duty-free. And now there he was, boarding the flight like a king. Toasting with his friends while I stood barefoot on tile I picked out, next to a plant I kept alive, in a home that felt less like mine with every passing day. He left that morning without saying goodbye properly. Just a shouted, "Don't wait up," as he wheeled his monogrammed luggage out the door. I didn't wait up, but I did watch. I watched every update, every filtered photo, every sun-soaked cocktail, every girl in the background, every tag, every smile that didn't include me. And I didn't cry. Not then. I just turned my phone off, set it on the counter, and opened a blank document on my laptop. The subject line was simple. Exit strategy. Because the moment he boarded that plane, something clicked. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. He wasn't confused. He wasn't lost. He wasn't making a mistake. He knew exactly what he was doing, and exactly what he thought I was worth. He thought I was the woman who would stay, who would smile through another boy's trip, who would keep the bed warm, the bills paid, and the silence soft while he chased the life he thought he deserved, without me in it. And for years I had been. Until that morning. Because while he was laughing his way into first class, I was quietly deleting his name from everything. I met Devin when we were both still pretending to be underdogs. He was ambitious in a loud way, all fast talk and 5-year plans scribbled on napkins. I was steady in a quiet way, detail-oriented, loyal, willing to stay up late researching certifications just so I could be useful to his next big pitch. He told me I was the kind of woman he'd always hoped to find, grounded, graceful, not high maintenance like his exes. I didn't realize that was code for convenient. We started dating when I was 24. I was working as an office assistant, freelancing on the side. He was still in the early stages of launching his app. Lots of talk, little return. I paid for more dinners than I'd admit to anyone. But it didn't feel like a sacrifice. It felt like building something. He used to say things like, "When we make it big, it'll all be worth it. You've been with me since the beginning. I won't forget that." And I believed him. Because I wasn't in it for the payoff. I just wanted to be part of the vision. When he got his first investor, we celebrated with champagne in our tiny kitchen. He lifted the glass and said, "To the woman who made this possible." I carried that toast like a badge of honor. He moved fast after that. New apartment. New wardrobe. New team. I stayed in the same role, quietly cheering him on. Eventually we moved in together. He didn't ask me to quit my job. He just made it clear that my schedule needed to revolve around his. Meetings at odd hours. Events I needed to be on for, polished, pretty, but never too visible. I became his shadow. He said things like, "It's not that I don't want you around. I just need you to support me behind the scenes. That's where the real power is." And I nodded, because I loved him. And I believed that someday when he finally arrived, he'd turn around and reach for my hand, in public. But instead, he just kept walking. The vacations started when the second round of funding hit. At first, they were small, weekends in Miami, guys' trips to Vegas. I was invited, but never really meant to come. "It's just going to be networking and bottle service, babe. You'd hate it. Trust me." So I stayed, held down the house, managed the bills, answered his assistant's texts when he forgot appointments. And every time he came home, he brought me a souvenir, like a child handing over a toy with guilt hidden beneath the plastic. I told myself it meant something. That one day I'd get to go. One day we'd be equal. But one day never came. And now, looking back, I see it so clearly. He never intended to take me with him. He just needed someone to keep the lights on while he chased the version of success that didn't include the woman who got him there. It started as teasing. Little jabs he wrapped in laughter. You're lucky you're cute. You'd never survive in one of my meetings. You'd hate my industry. Way too competitive. You're not a big vision thinker, babe. That's not a bad thing. It's just not who you are. At first, I laughed with him. Because that's what you do when someone you love says something that feels like a paper cut. It stings, but it's small enough to hide. But the jokes didn't stop. They sharpened. He started talking over me when we were with his team, correcting me in front of friends, dismissing my ideas before I finished the sentence. That's not how it works in the real world. She means well, but she's not in tech. It's not her fault, she's more of a feelings person. I was building a freelance consulting portfolio at the time. Small clients. Meaningful work. Nothing flashy. I told him I was thinking about scaling it into a formal business. He laughed. Laughed. You? Running a company? Babe, do you know how intense that gets? You get overwhelmed just filing your taxes. I remember standing there, documents in hand, pride still warm from a new client email, and feeling it drain out of me like someone had punctured my chest. I didn't say anything, just nodded and said, yeah, maybe you're right. Because somewhere along the way, I'd started believing that his confidence was fact. That my dreams were fragile things not meant for sharp corners. He liked that I didn't compete with him. He liked that I didn't make too much noise. He liked that I stayed in the background while he talked about scaling mindshare and owning the room. He said he wanted a queen, but only if she bowed when he walked in. And I did. For too long. I made myself smaller, softer, simpler. When I got good news, I checked his mood before I shared it. When I got bad news, I buffered it with humor, so he wouldn't feel burdened. He didn't ask me to do these things outright, but I learned the rules quickly. Don't take up space. Don't shine too brightly. And whatever you do, don't outgrow the pedestal he built for you. Because it's not a pedestal. It's a leash. And eventually I realized I wasn't being loved. I was being contained. The scariest part wasn't the loneliness. It was how normal it started to feel. At first, it was little things. He'd sigh when I made plans with friends. Ask who was going. Then say, didn't we agree to save money this month? Or he'd mention how clingy one of my girlfriends was. It's weird how much she needs to vent to you. Don't you feel drained after that? And I'd nod, even if I didn't, because he always made it sound so rational. Gradually, I started declining invitations. Girls' brunches, book clubs, casual birthdays. He never said I couldn't go. He just made it inconvenient to say yes. By year 3, I could count my close friends on one hand. By year 4, I couldn't count them at all. My world revolved around him, his schedule, his stress, his needs. When I talked about needing space or missing certain parts of my life, he'd get defensive. I just don't want you wasting time with people who don't challenge you. I'm trying to build something huge here. Can you not derail me with this emotional stuff? Why are you always looking for problems? Eventually, I stopped bringing it up. I thought that made me strong. I thought keeping the peace meant protecting the relationship. But really, I was protecting his comfort at the cost of my own clarity. My hobbies disappeared first. Then my voice. Then my joy. The only thing that remained was the version of me that he preferred. Supportive, convenient, low maintenance. When I mentioned wanting to go back to school, he said, "You're already great at what you do. Why waste time on more credentials?" When I suggested a weekend trip together, he replied, "That kind of thing is for people who aren't grinding 24/7. When I cried after a particularly lonely day, he said, "You need to learn how to manage your emotions better. I can't always carry that." So I stopped asking, stopped crying, stopped hoping he'd ever see the version of me that was hungry for more connection, more purpose, more life. And the truth is, I thought that was love. I thought sacrifice meant I was doing it right. But what I was really doing was disappearing. And no one noticed. Not even me. Until he boarded that plane. And I finally remembered what it felt like to be completely, devastatingly alone, and realize I hadn't lost him. I'd lost myself. By the time the trips became frequent, I had stopped asking questions. Not because I didn't want answers, but because I already knew them. At first, they were quick. Weekend getaways with the guys. Tech conferences that somehow didn't have public schedules. Startup summits in cities where he never brought back business cards. It's not your scene, babe. It's exhausting, you'd hate it. Trust me, you'd be so bored. I trusted him. Or I tried to. But slowly, the trips got longer. More elaborate. I started recognizing the same names over and over. A group of men he called his inner circle. They'd tag each other on stories, laughing at private clubs and luxury rooftops while I folded laundry alone, listening to the hum of a house I used to feel at home in. One night, I asked if we could plan a vacation together. Just the two of us. Something easy. A weekend in Arizona. A lake cabin. Anything. He didn't even look up from his laptop. Honestly, I don't think now's the right time. Maybe when you've got more going on career-wise, we can do something worth documenting. I stared at him, trying to decide which part of that sentence hurt the most. The worth documenting? The subtle jab at my job? The way he said we when what he meant was you. I laughed softly, bitterly, and asked, "Do you even want to travel with me?" He looked annoyed, like I'd asked something offensive. "Why are you making this about you? Can't I have one thing that's just mine?" That was the moment it clicked. The trips weren't about business. They weren't about relaxation. They were about identity. His. He wanted to be the man who flew first class with people who looked the part, who made inside jokes on yachts, who toasted champagne with models and moguls, and whoever else validated the version of himself he wanted to become. And me. I didn't fit the image. Not because I wasn't enough, but because I wasn't curated. I was real. And real wasn't sexy on social media. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a prop. And every day, I was becoming less of what he wanted to be seen with, even though I was still everything he needed to survive. It was a Tuesday morning. We were sitting at the kitchen island, the same one I picked out when we remodeled. He was scrolling through flights on his phone while sipping coffee from the mug I bought him after his first funding round. I was making a grocery list. I asked, gently, if he'd like to plan a trip together. Something small. Just us. No Instagram. No hashtags. Just real air, real time, real connection. He didn't look up. He just snorted. "Babe, only successful people go on trips like this." I froze. "What?" He glanced at me, still smiling like it was a joke. "These resorts aren't for amateurs. You wouldn't get it." Then he went back to scrolling, like he hadn't just punctured something soft inside me, like he hadn't just confirmed what I'd quietly feared for years. I stood there holding a pen, watching him plan his next moment of curated luxury, and I realized. He didn't respect me. He didn't admire me. He didn't even see me. Not really. He saw the version of me he'd crafted in his mind. The supportive partner, the placeholder, the background music to his main character life. And in that moment, I felt something inside me go very, very quiet. Not dead. Not broken. Just focused. There was no argument. No dramatic walkout. No tears. I simply turned the page on the grocery list. Wrote down printer ink. And added one more line beneath it. Exit strategy. Because that sentence, "Only successful people go on trips like this," wasn't just rude. It was truth. His truth was that I wasn't part of his future. That he saw me as the woman he'd bring back something for. Not the woman he'd bring along. And from that moment forward, I knew he would never be man enough to build something with me. So I'd build something without him. After that morning, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't ask him to take it back. Because there was nothing left to fight for. Not the relationship. Not the dream. Not the illusion of being chosen. He'd already made his choice. So I made mine. I went silent. Not with coldness. Not with drama. With precision. He thought I was pulling away. He thought I was moody. He told his friends I was going through something. I was going through the process of setting myself free. I started small. Screenshots. Account logins. Bank statements. Insurance paperwork he hadn't touched in months. I scanned and saved everything to a private drive. Made backups. Then backups of the backups. I signed up for a consultation with a lawyer and listed my return address as my friend Danny's apartment, just in case. I opened a new email address. A new bank account. I didn't even touch his money. I didn't want it. What I wanted was control over mine. Control over me. He left for another weekend trip, some luxury mastermind in Napa. The second the Uber pulled away from our driveway, I opened my laptop and made a list. Remove name from utilities. Transfer car title. Redirect mail. Find a storage unit. Lock in an exit date. I wasn't leaving in a flurry. I wasn't leaving in rage. I was leaving in stages. Every time he posted a selfie by a pool or with a glass of wine and the caption, "Hustle excuses," I crossed off another item on my list. And every time he called to check in, "Need anything while I'm gone? Want me to bring you back that perfume you like?" I smiled through the phone and said, "No, I'm good. Just get some rest. He didn't know he was talking to the version of me who was already halfway gone. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel weak for keeping quiet. I felt powerful. Because silence isn't always submission. Sometimes it's strategy. And mine was nearly complete. He left on a Thursday. Suitcase packed the night before, full of pressed shirts and overpriced sunglasses. He'd booked first class, of course. Said he deserved to fly in comfort after all the stress. I didn't argue. I offered to drive him to the airport. He declined. Said he'd rather Uber. Less emotional that way. As if I'd be crying at the gate. He kissed my cheek before he left. Didn't even look me in the eye. I'll text when I land. Don't wait up. And then he was gone. I waited exactly 30 seconds after the door shut before opening my laptop. The storage unit reservation? Confirmed. Key already in my purse. The moving service? Booked under a fake name, a friend's LLC, so he wouldn't recognize the charge. They'd be there in 4 hours. The utilities? Already out of my name. The renter's insurance? Cancelled. I moved methodically. Every piece of clothing I wanted was folded, packed, and loaded into bins. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't scrambling. This was a plan. I left behind anything he bought me, shoes, bags, the espresso machine he gifted me the Christmas after his first big deal. Let him keep the symbols. I was reclaiming myself. I wiped the laptop I shared with him, logged out of every app, deleted myself from every autofill. By noon, the apartment was half empty. By 3 p.m., I was walking through the door of a one-bedroom sublet across town, small, quiet mine. I didn't cry once. The movers said I looked like someone heading to a spa weekend. I smiled. They weren't wrong. I ordered Thai food that night and watched my favorite movie under a blanket I hadn't used in years because he said it clashed with his aesthetic. It felt like a reunion. With myself. Meanwhile, he was in Tulum, posting photos of ocean views, neon cocktails, rooftop pools. Laughing in every frame. Tanned. Shirtless. Surrounded by friends who didn't know, or didn't care, what kind of man he really was. And then came the post that broke the last thread. A selfie on the flight back. Champagne in one hand. Smug grin on his face. Captioned. First class only. If you know, you know. I read it once. Then I blocked him. Everywhere. Phone. Social. Email. Banking. Streaming. I deleted his name from everything. Because I wasn't just done loving him. I was done even remembering how. He landed on a Sunday evening. Texted me from the airport. Babe, wheels down. Be home in an hour. You want anything? I didn't reply. Mostly because I couldn't. He was blocked. But also because I had nothing left to say. I was sitting in my new apartment, feet curled beneath me, sipping a glass of wine with the kind of peace that doesn't ask for permission. He walked into silence. No welcome home. No dinner on the stove. No light left on. The living room was half empty. The closet? Bare. The fridge? Wiped clean except for a bottle of his favorite almond milk and a sticky note that said, "Good luck." Smiley face. He called twice. Then 3 more times. He texted Danny, my closest friend, and she responded with one sentence. She's safe. Don't contact her. He didn't stop. The next morning, he called the bank. His access? Gone. He called our old landlord. They told him the lease was terminated. Paid out. Deposit already returned, to me. He called my job. They said I'd taken a leave of absence to start something new. He called my sister. She didn't pick up. He showed up at my old gym, then my nail salon, then the Thai place around the corner like I might just appear if he retraced his steps hard enough. But I wasn't there. Because I wasn't his anymore. He finally emailed me. Subject. Please. Let me explain. The body was long. He said I'd blindsided him. Said I should have talked to him. Said he didn't really mean it when he said those things. That he was just stressed, trying to fit in, saying what people around him were saying. That he was proud of me. That he missed me. That he wanted to fix this. I read the email twice. Then archived it. No reply. Because I wasn't interested in explanations from the man who looked me in the eye and said I wasn't worthy of his world. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't cruel. I was just done. And when I looked around my new space, small, sunlit, full of air, I realized I'd taken the most important things with me. My dignity. My clarity. My name, on everything that mattered now. And him? He'd been deleted. It showed up on my timeline because someone screenshotted it. A friend of a friend. Someone who didn't know I'd blocked him, didn't know I'd already left. The caption read, "Some people just can't handle success. That's okay, not everyone's built for the top. The photo. Devin. At a networking brunch. Wearing a blazer over a designer tee. Smiling like the man he always pretended to be. There were 3 men beside him, all familiar from those luxury trips, and one woman I didn't recognize. Long legs. High cheekbones. Tan. Wearing a white dress and laughing toward the camera like she owned the moment. He had his arm around her. Not in a romantic way. Not quite, but with familiarity. The kind of familiarity that makes you realize someone's already been replaced, even before they leave. I stared at it for a moment. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't even hurt. But I felt something inside me harden. Because that caption? Some people just can't handle success. Wasn't about business. It wasn't about him. It was about me. It was him rewriting the narrative, turning his arrogance into ambition, his dismissal into standards. I was no longer the woman who supported him through early mornings and late bills. I was now the one who couldn't keep up, the woman he left behind, the woman he made it look like he outgrew. Except he didn't leave me. I left him. And I didn't leave because I couldn't handle his lifestyle. I left because I finally realized that I didn't belong in a world where being kind made me weak, where being steady made me forgettable, where being loving made me disposable. He didn't build that world without me. He built it on me, on my silence, my flexibility, my willingness to carry the invisible weight of being his emotional, financial, and spiritual backup system. So I didn't screenshot the post, didn't respond, didn't reach out to correct the story, because the truth was already living with me, in every inch of my new apartment, in every sunrise I watched without needing permission, in every laugh I shared with people who saw me, not just as support, but as center. Devin could spin the narrative however he wanted, because at the end of the day, the only people who believed him were the ones who didn't know me. I didn't rush it. I waited 3 full days after that final post, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to be clear. Clear that it wasn't about proving anything. It was about closing the door all the way. I opened my laptop on a Thursday morning, made tea, turned on music, and started deleting. The photo album's gone. The shared drive unlinked. The old anniversary playlists erased. I unsubscribed him from anything with my name on it, removed him from emergency contacts, cleared the last traces of him from my phone, deleted the passcode he once used for my iPad, tossed out the backup charger he left in the drawer, donated the hoodie I used to wear when I missed him. It didn't hurt. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like a reset, like taking a deep breath after holding it in for 5 years. I checked the last box on my list, an old email folder titled Shared Life. Inside were receipts, travel plans, notes from the early days. One of them was a draft I never sent, a love letter I wrote him when he first got funded. I almost read it. Almost. But then I paused and deleted the whole folder instead, because love doesn't live in archives. And I wasn't building a shrine to a man who made me feel like an afterthought. I closed my laptop, took one final look around my apartment. Sunlight on the hardwood floors. Books I picked out myself. Flowers in a vase. My name on the lease. My life on display, as is. Not curated. Not filtered. Not waiting to be approved. Just real. Mine. Later that night, I went out with friends. We ordered wine and laughed until we were crying. I danced a little. Smiled a lot. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't check my phone once. Because there was nothing on it I missed. Nothing I needed. Nothing waiting to pull me back into the version of me I'd finally outgrown. Devin was still out there, probably spinning a story. But I wasn't listening. I was done being a chapter in his narrative, because I had already started writing my own. And he was no longer in the cast. He showed up at my job. No call. No warning. Just walked in like the months hadn't passed. Like silence didn't mean final. Like his story still had space for a plot twist that involved me coming back. I was in the middle of helping a client when I saw him through the glass. Hands in his pockets. Wearing that same, I made a mistake, expression he used the last time he forgot my birthday. This time, it didn't move me. When I stepped out, he smiled, cautious, unsure. Hey, he said. You look great. Hi, Devin. He rocked on his heels. I know I'm not supposed to be here. But I didn't know how else to see you. I didn't say anything. He tried again. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. The trips. The way I treated you. I thought I was chasing success, but really, I was just running from feeling small. His voice cracked on the word small. I see you now, he added. I see what you were trying to build with me. What you gave. What I threw away. I nodded once. I know, I said. I always saw it. I just got tired of being the only one who did. He stepped closer. Can we talk? We're talking. I mean, outside of here. Dinner. Coffee. Just to talk. I tilted my head. Devin, I spent years trying to make you proud to stand next to me. I twisted myself into something smaller, quieter, easier, and you still boarded that plane without me. His mouth opened, but I held up a hand. You made it clear. I wasn't part of your world. And I believed you. He swallowed hard. But I miss you. I smiled. Not bitter. Not sad. Just done. I missed me too. But I found her again. And she's not interested in going back. He stood there. Still hoping. Still not understanding that what he lost wasn't just a girlfriend. It was access. To peace. To partnership. To the kind of woman who loved deeply, stayed long, and still walked away with grace. A woman who now knew that silence doesn't mean indecision. It means strategy. I stepped back. I wish you healing, Devin. I really do. Then I turned around and walked away. Back into my life. Back into myself. When silence didn't work in his favor, he tried the next best thing. Spin. It started with a few subtle posts. Quotes about betrayal. Captions about loyalty. A moody selfie with the words, "Some people only love you when it's easy." I ignored it. Then came the mutual friend check-ins. Hey, just wanted to say I'm here if you need anything. I know things got messy. Devin said you kind of shut him out. He seems confused. Confused? No. He was just shocked that I didn't beg. Didn't explain. Didn't give him a public meltdown to weaponize. So he started telling his version. That I blindsided him. That I was always emotional. That I gave up when things got hard. He told one of his friends, loudly at a dinner I wasn't invited to, that I couldn't handle the pressure of being with someone driven. That I was jealous of his success. It got back to me. Everything always does. And for a second I felt that old twinge. The urge to clarify. Defend. Step in and say, actually. But then I remembered. You don't defend yourself against fiction. You just keep living in truth. And the truth? The people who knew me, who saw the quiet years, the subtle dimming, the careful silence, they didn't ask questions. They reached out with love. With phrases like, "We always wondered how you stayed so patient. And you look lighter now. Happier." Even Danny, who had never liked him, sent a one-word text after she saw one of his posts. Pathetic. He tried one last reach. A long, dramatic Instagram story about being discarded by people who pretend to be gentle. I muted him. Not because I was angry, but because there was nothing left to hear. I didn't need to watch him rewrite the ending, because I had lived the whole book. And while he was out there begging for the benefit of the doubt, I was busy building a life that didn't need defense. Because I'd already won. And I didn't win by getting even. I won by getting out. There was a day, not long after he tried to rewrite our ending, when I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Not in the way I didn't recognize myself with him, dull, edited, muted. This time, I didn't recognize the strength in my own posture. The ease in my own skin. The way my silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was earned. I used to be the woman who measured success in survival. Who stayed in rooms that dimmed her light just because she didn't want to be called too much. Who flinched when someone asked about her dreams, because she'd forgotten them, buried somewhere under the pile of his. But now I was the woman who woke up without anxiety. Who played her music loud. Who scheduled her own days. Who stood in line for coffee with nothing but time and her favorite lipstick. I had taken myself back, one quiet decision at a time. It didn't happen all at once. Healing never does. There were mornings when I missed him out of habit. When I remembered a joke, a dinner, a moment that once felt safe. But I never missed the woman I was with him. The one who waited for permission. Who asked to be seen. Who hoped love would arrive if she just stayed still enough. She was gone. And in her place was someone I was proud of. Not because she escaped, but because she grew. Into her own voice. Her own pace. Her own damn name. Sometimes I think about who I'll be a year from now. And I smile. Because for the first time in a long time, that future doesn't include begging anyone to choose me. I already did. It wasn't loud. There was no viral moment. No flashy announcement. Just an email with a subject line I almost missed. Feature confirmation. Women in tech spotlight. I opened it slowly, thinking it was spam. But there it was. An invitation to be interviewed. For the consulting firm I started. The one I built quietly, while he was off chasing yachts and hashtags. They wanted to feature my story. Not the one about him. The one about me. About growth. strategy, independence. The things I used to apologize for wanting. Now, they were my brand. The article dropped 2 weeks later. A clean 3-page spread with a professional photo and a headline that read, "From supportive partner to CEO. The woman who rebuilt her life her way." I didn't even cry. I just sat with it. Let it land. People started reaching out. Former colleagues. Friends I hadn't seen in years. Even a couple of women I didn't know, just followers, strangers, who said they saw themselves in my story. One wrote, "Thank you for showing me it's not too late." I screenshotted that one. Not to share. Just to keep. For the days I needed a reminder that this wasn't just about escape. It was about becoming. Jonah, someone I met at a local pitch event, saw the article too. He texted, "You're incredible. Always were. Glad the world's finally catching up." I smiled. Not because it meant anything romantic, but because I finally had people around me who didn't need to be convinced of my value. They just saw it. Because I did. I didn't post about the article. Didn't tag anyone. But word got around. And one night, while I was scrolling through my email, I saw it. Devin. Subject line. I read the article. The message was short. "You always had it in you. I just couldn't see it back then. I'm sorry." I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to. The story spoke for itself. So did the silence. And while he was out there realizing what he lost, I was out here living everything he said I wasn't ready for. Not out of spite. Out of alignment. Out of truth. Out of finally knowing that you don't have to burn bridges to move forward. You just have to build a life that makes looking back unnecessary. It came through while I was brushing my teeth. An email. No subject line. I didn't need to click to know who it was from. I stood there, staring at my phone, toothbrush still in hand, and felt nothing. Not curiosity. Not nostalgia. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that follows a storm you outlived. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Because I already knew what it would say. A final plea. A wistful memory. One more I wish I'd known then. But I had no interest in being part of someone's regret redemption arc. Not when I'd already written my own story. I put the phone down. Finished brushing. Put on my face serum. Sat on the couch and opened a journal I hadn't touched in months. Inside was a note I'd scribbled during the hardest week of my exit. "Someday this will all make sense. Stay steady. The world is coming back to you." It had. In pieces. In strangers turned community. In silence turned sanctuary. In one small, full moment at a time. That morning, I walked to my favorite cafe. The barista knew my name. My order was perfect. The playlist was vibey and warm. I sat in the corner seat by the window, opened my laptop, and kept writing. Not emails to ghosts. Not love letters to the past. But proposals. Ideas. Future things. Because I was no longer looking back. The man who once told me I wasn't built for first class? He was still chasing validation. Still trying to build a brand on borrowed confidence. Still sending emails into the void. But me? I was thriving in the quiet. In the joy. In the after. And I didn't need to reply. Because I had already answered everything I needed to with my absence. And the life I built without him? Spoke louder than any goodbye.
Thanks so much for watching. If you love a good revenge story, or if you've ever dreamed of getting the last word without saying much at all, you're in the right place. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new savage ending. Because around here, karma always hits different.